Alright, should you invest your money in Apple or Nvidia stock? Without wasting any time, let's get right into it. Firstly, let's quickly look at the performance of both the stocks over the past 7 years. Apple did a 4x or a 400% return over that period, which is pretty good, especially if you take into account the size of the company. But that's nothing compared to Nvidia's 2300% return over the same period. Nvidia has grown 6 times more than Apple, and to me that's not surprising at all if you take into account the growth of the segments they're both operating in. We know, or at least used to know, Apple as a company that innovates and brings in new product. They brought iPod firstly, and then iPhone, and then iPad, and then Apple Watch, and finally AirPods. These were all at the time innovative products, superior to their competitors and slightly more expensive. But we just haven't seen much innovation from Apple lately. And the industry that they're playing in pretty much reached their saturation point. Yes, they introduced the Vision Pro, but the way that the battery is attached with a cable and it only lasts 2 hours, so you cannot watch a proper movie on it without getting plugged in, and it comes at the price tag of $3,500. It's just ridiculous. On the other hand, the market that Nvidia is playing in is possibly the fastest growing market in the whole world right now. The problem that Nvidia has is that they might not be able to meet the demand for the company's products. Their products are used in computers, data centers, cars, and will possibly be used in majority of factories out there pretty soon. But in case of Apple, according to IDC, a market intelligence company, the sales of a smartphone have not grown last year. And the sales of personal computer were actually down 14%. And 2/3 of Apple's revenue come from sales of iPhones and MacBooks, and you can see the impact in Apple's revenue, which dropped by 3% year over year. And I know last year was a special year with all the inflation and stuff, but these segments will also not grow like crazy in the coming years. Again, according to IDC, the sales of laptops will grow by around 3% until 2027. And the sales of a smartphone will grow by only 1.7% over the next 4 years. Wall Street analysts expect Apple's earnings to grow by just around 6% per year over the next 5 years, while Apple grew their earnings by around 21% over the past 5 years. Quite a difference. But if we assume the 6% is correct, Apple had an earning per share of $6.13. So if you own one share of Apple, $6.13 was your take of Apple's bottom line. And if we assume the 6% is correct over the next 5 to 10 years, by 2030, Apple will bring in $9.13 of earnings per share. An Apple PE ratio from 2019 and 2023 averaged somewhere around 26. And if we assume 26 will still apply in 2030, Apple stock will hit $242, a 32% increase from the current price. Alright, now let's talk about Nvidia. Nvidia controls something like 90% of the AI chip market, which is estimated to reach $300 billion in 2030 compared to $20 billion in 2021. And this is not the only market that Nvidia is active in. So you have to add generative AI, you have to add healthcare, you have to add data centers, automotive industry, and much more. So there is still a lot of room for growth for Nvidia, which explains why analysts consistently raise their estimates. Although Nvidia grew their revenue by 120% year over year, bringing in around $60 billion in revenue, they are expected to grow the revenue by 54% this year and another 62% next year. Analysts expect Nvidia to bring in $108 billion in revenue in 2026. And if Nvidia delivers, they went from $27 billion in 2023 to $108 billion in 2026, averaging the compound annual growth rate of 59%, which is crazy for a company this big. And if they grow by a conservative 1/3 of that, or around 20% from 2026 to 2030, they will bring in somewhere around $224 billion in revenue by 2030. Over the past 5 years, Nvidia's price to sale ratio averaged around 19. And if 19 still applies in 2030, which I think it will, and it is a little bit more also conservative, Nvidia can reach a market cap of $4.25 trillion. And if our assumptions play out, Nvidia will overtake Apple and become more valuable. And this won't surprise me at all, considering how much growth potential Nvidia has compared to Apple. Let me know what do you think about Nvidia, and like always, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video, and let me know which stock do you want me to research for you next.